Hey guys, I did a poll on YouTube and you guys told me I should do a video on defeating or destroying art block. I'm having trouble thinking of ideas for this video, so I think in the spirit of the video, I'm just going to start and, I don't know, just make something. Yeah, so I guess my thoughts on art block. To me, the whole idea of art block is something that's way more about gas not being in the tank versus something that's standing in your way. I think nowadays, a lot of people have a lot of reasons not to want to draw. To me, the things that stand out to me personally are things like AI coming out and making the whole idea of art seem irrelevant. And I think a lot of people are probably struggling with that. I know a lot of people are struggling with that kind of thing. Or the struggling pressures of having to pay rent and get a job and do all that kind of stuff. To me, the whole idea of creating in the first place, the whole job of it, the whole struggle is getting yourself into that mindset where you actually are drawing and creating and having fun doing it. With all the weight of whether you should be doing it, you shouldn't be doing it, how you should be doing it, all these external pressures, are you doing it correctly, are you doing it incorrectly? Those things are always in the back of people's minds. And I think someone's ability to step away from those perceived shoulds versus what they want to be doing is actually how somebody becomes able to get past art block. The way that I do it personally is something like having interests outside of drawing that let me pursue and do the things that I really want to be doing. Like I realized for myself, I went to the Watts Atelier for a couple years and I studied academic art. I studied the Riley method and doing all that kind of stuff, traditional illustration, concept art. I went to live in England for a while and try to be a concept artist and stuff. And the thing that I ultimately found about myself is like I am way less of an image maker than other friends of mine that do it really well. And for a while, it really bummed me out. Like I still am an image maker, but it's not in the same way that other people are. I found that I get a lot of my own personal validation out of traveling and doing a bunch of other things like trying to make videos and helping other people with their content, editing. And when I opened myself up to the other things that I really enjoy, I found that creativity and art block disappeared in a lot of ways. The thing that I learned from school, and it's no one's fault, it's kind of my own fault for getting stuck in this trap myself, is that there are rules to creativity and drawing and all this kind of stuff. And the reality is that no one really cares what you do and how you do it. And it's your job to try and make it fun. I think that's actually the only job, is to try and make it enjoyable for yourself. With all of the pressures of schools reaching out to you, or having to do work in a specific way to hit a certain style for an art director or a certain studio or whatever, it's really easy to get caught up in the mindset of, man, I really wish I was drawing in this way, because once I did, then I would be able to get that job and then everyone would be proud of me and I'd be able to be proud of myself. But speaking from experience, the only thing that we all really have at the end of the day is the moment-to-moment journey process stuff. Like if you become a great illustrator but you hate every moment of it, you're going to have a way shorter career than somebody who's maybe not as technically skilled, but they love the act of like putting down a stroke on a canvas or something, or sculpting a little guy, or drawing a little thing or whatever. And art block is something that I think we all experience, not because we are not excited about art or we don't love it or anything. I think it's more of a like misalignment of your priorities, or misalignment of like in a lot of ways like your soul. I don't want to sound too corny, but I think it's actually just part of being human. Like if you're trying to be creative professionally, part of being successful is learning how you react to stress and how you react to something like art block. You're going to keep experiencing it. It's not going to go away, but the way you react to it is going to change. For a lot of people, they choose external things that force them to that really force them to create stuff. So if you work at an art studio, you have to go in every day. You have to do assignments from your art director. You have to do things for money, because if you don't, you'll be fired. Or you go to art school to keep you accountable. You have assignments. You have other people around you. You're in class. You have to be drawing in class. You have to be taking notes or being in a lecture. And those external factors can do a lot for someone's own personal motivation. External factors can be really good for getting past art block, but I think ultimately it's a little bit shallow, because eventually the hope is, maybe for a lot of you guys, is to get to a point to where you're completely internally motivated outside of a studio. Maybe you want to work on your own projects. Maybe you want to just draw for fun and not really worry about getting a studio job. And I think the way you get around art block in that sense is something like doing the thing that you truly care about. I have a podcast that I host. It's called my camera. It's called the Sketchy Van Podcast. And a question that I ask everybody on the podcast is, would you be doing exactly the same thing you were doing right now if you had $1 billion? And the question is like less so about like what you would do with $1 billion. It's more like if you didn't have any external pressure from friends or family to earn money or to have a certain amount of status or anything, because once you have $1 billion, you're likely the most well-off, successful, secure person around you. What do? Like, do you still aspire to work at a studio? Do you still aspire to do Magic the Gathering cards? Do you still aspire to do a lot of the things that you might be trying to do right now? And if the answer is no, I think that's not a sign to necessarily stop doing it, but I think it's a sign that maybe maybe it's not entirely creatively fulfilling or sustainable. I think that as I'm getting older, the art that I really like most, it's stuff that's a little bit more raw and a little bit wackier and kind of like weird. I know that like for a long time, for like a month or so, I think more than a month, I was obsessed with The Room, the worst movie of all time, because I was so amazed that this guy could commit so hard to such an objectively bad vision. It's like a horrible movie. Everyone agrees it's a horrible movie, and he still makes it, and it's received to be one of the worst movies of all time. But he's owned it. He's embraced the fact that this thing is like, a lot of people don't like it. And I met Tommy Wiseau. I'll put a photo here. But yeah, and I think that it's either being naive or optimistic or something that gets you through those moments when you can't create. And the whole idea of art block is something that we all experience, but a lot of us are better and worse at handling it. And I think the way that you get through that is you start to have a healthier relationship with your art and your own creativity and outcomes. Like I recorded a podcast with Steve Houston recently where he talked about the 3 ways of motivating yourself as an artist. And one is like you keep a strict schedule and you push yourself through it. You're Iron Manning stuff. You're just going as hard as you possibly can on trying to be tough and be I'm gonna soldier through all this stuff. And then the other way is you do it badly, you just don't do it. Or you be kind to yourself, you treat yourself well, and you forgive yourself when you might not be reaching those levels that you feel like you could be doing. And I think the soldiering along, it works for some people, but it's not the thing that keeps people creative. It's not when you're stressed out, it's hard to make stuff. When you're worried about money or you're worried about how you spend your time or creativity or any of that kind of stuff, you feel like something like drawing is silly. Or maybe you do work in an office job where you might make good enough money, but maybe you feel like the path that you're on is not going to lead to a fulfilling life. And that path that you're on now is actually going to take away from any creativity you might feel, which that actually might not be objectively true, but that thought is the thing I think that keeps people from creating. Because when you are creating, you're putting all this pressure on yourself to have fun while you're doing it. And we all know if you're trying to have fun, that's the easiest way to stop having fun. For me, for this video, I spent like probably all of today just like thinking of like, how do I make this video? How do I make it interesting? How do I make it a good intro? How do I add visuals and all this kind of stuff? And at a certain point I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start recording and see what I say and upload whatever happens. Because I think, again, a lot of creativity has to do with not thinking, not putting too much pressure on yourself, and just doing stuff. I know for a fact that for me personally, I'm embarrassed and anxious about this stuff. For anyone that's been following me for a little bit, I've been trying to make this YouTube thing work lately, putting a little bit more effort into it. And I'm hoping that at some point it starts to earn me a little bit more money. And those anxieties make it a lot harder to actually create stuff. When I was just like not worrying about thumbnails and titles and just doing my own thing, I was a lot more relaxed and enjoying the whole process of creating a lot more. I think I'm like making better videos, but maybe it's at the cost of having a little bit more fun, at least for now. And I think that kind of goes to the idea of baby steps, where you start doing something. You start, in second grade, you're drawing little pictures of your family or dogs or dragons or something. And it's not very good, but your second grade teacher tells you this is awesome, you should go tell your parents tell you it's cool. And then it kind of like ignites that spark inside yourself. And then you keep doing baby steps, you get a little bit better every year to the point where you go to art school and, you're suddenly not the best person in your school anymore, you're suddenly one of the worst. And because of that, it's like you might be, like your whole identity might be challenged in a really negative way. And if you're able to step past that negative feeling of being the worst person in the room, you're able to, I think, transcend to the next level where you embrace the amount of discomfort that you're willing to take on and then do a little bit more, do little baby steps. Like, don't push yourself so hard to where you burn out. And I think something like art block is a symptom of us maybe pushing a little bit too hard on ourselves. We push so hard that the thing that we say we love, the thing that we say we love to do ends up being way more of a burden to us rather than something that we love to do. And for me, the act of drawing and video creating and doing live streams has been very stressful. But as I'm taking little baby steps into making videos about it, I'm starting to enjoy it more. It's getting better. I'm getting faster at it and all these different things. And it's only because I'm trying to like be consistent, not put too much pressure on myself, not think too hard about it, and just doing it. And for those moments where I feel like nothing is coming out of me, I do have moments where I'm like browsing TikTok maybe a little bit too much or something, or I'm just wasting my time playing video games. But I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. And I'm, I don't know, like as long as you get to it eventually, it's totally fine. And if not, if you don't end up getting to it eventually, that's okay too. It's not like you have to do everything. Yeah, I think with this stuff, it's a lot more about having a moment-to-moment enjoyment of who you are and what you do versus the outcome-oriented, goal-oriented, or the outcome-oriented way of thinking. It's way more about being obsessed in the moment with the action that you're trying to focus on, whether it's painting a picture. The reality of painting a masterpiece is the same as painting the worst painting a beginner could ever do. It's just like you're putting strokes down on a canvas and relating every stroke to the previous stroke to the whole painting. And eventually it turns out really good or it turns out really bad. But you don't get to that masterpiece without being obsessed with having fun with the process. I guess that's it. Like, again, with the struggling of art block stuff, if you're really having trouble with it, just cool it. You're okay. You're doing fine, probably. Like go for a walk. I do that a lot. Like, just step outside, look at a tree, just walk down the street. Love what you do. And yeah, I don't want to sound too corny and cheesy, but yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different from the kind of stuff I've been doing in general. If you didn't like it, don't tell me, because I'm deeply insecure. And if you did like it, please tell me, because I'm deeply insecure and I need validation from other people. And yeah, and on a more serious note, if you would like to see more of this content from me, please let me know. If you have any thoughts, leave a comment, like and subscribe. I know it's annoying to hear, but it actually does help quite a bit with the algorithm. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye. Hey, by the way, I made a free Procreate sketching brush pack. Check it out in the description and give it 5 stars, please. Thank you. Also, I have a mentorship if you want to sign up for it. We talk about the kind of stuff we talked about in the video. Okay, thanks. Okay, goodbye for real. Bye.